of me is down. You enchant me, even when you're not around. If there are boundaries, I will try to knock them down. I'm latching on them, now I know what I have found.
Number 2 producer in all of Family First Life in 2021. The dude is an absolute beast. But the true reason that he produces at such a high level is because he works his ass off. And it's that simple. The only difference between me and Jake is Jake works harder than me. And I'll be the first one to admit that he does, because I don't write 100,000 a month. You know, I write right around 25 to 30,000 a month. But Jake is just putting in more time in the field and putting more time on the phones and has a strict schedule. But without further ado, please drop a 1 in the chat if you guys are excited to hear from my man, Jake Konen. How are you doing today, man?
Gage, what's up, dude? Thanks for bringing me on. I'm stoked for this conversation, man. You guys got a great crew.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Now, obviously, man, everyone is like, this dude does $1 million on his own pen. What is the secret sauce? What is this? What is that? But me and you both know there's truly not any secret sauce. So like today is payday. We call dial day payday because this is when all the money is made on the phones. So a guy like yourself, you know, producing at a high level, building at a high level, what does today look like for you, start to finish? If you can kind of explain that to us.
Man, complete and utter chaos. You know, I think that's what everyone is kind of like looking for at first, at least what I've seen it with new agents. You know, when does the chaos stop? It doesn't. You just learn how to be more efficient in the chaos, right? So I get my leads ready to rock and roll the night before, just like everybody preaches. Get your leads, like buy them the night before or a couple of days before if you're planning in advance for a travel trip. And a big thing for me is if I start on time. You know, if I have my first phone call, my first phone number clocked in the cell phone at 7:29 and I hit send at 7:30 for the first time, dude, I'm going to crush it. I'm going to crush the entire day, especially if I got up early, got my workout in, you know, I got my food in before I started dialing. I don't have to worry about nothing, you know, just focus on the dials. So if I start on time and I keep the promises I made to myself, dude, it's going to be a great, chaotic, beautifully chaotic day.
I love that you say it's chaos, because it 100% is. Like, obviously people who are new to this business or been in this business for a couple months or even a year, and they see someone like you who has a $700,000 agency, or someone like myself who has a $700,000 agency, like it looks great on the outside, but they don't really understand what the inside daily tasks really look like, man. And it's very, very much chaotic. Phone call after phone call, trying to get into dials. But you touched on something that I think is super important, Jake. And you said that you have your first number tuned in on your phone and you're hitting that green button at 7:30. And if you do that, you have a great day. What has been your response, or when you start making calls at 7:30? Are people pissed? How is that? Because I know that's the thing that people mentally put in their mind, that it's super early. But with your experience, how has that 7:30 to 8 o'clock dial time been for yourself?
Golden. That's the most valuable half hour the entire day for me. Like one, it just feels like you're kind of getting like a mental like edge up on your competition. You know, I have a sports background, you know, so it's more so for me than for the actual clients. But also, I mean, think about it, man. Like if someone has to be at work, you know, at 8 o'clock in the morning, you know, you're probably calling them on their drive to work. They got the coffee in them, they're already ready to go. There's probably not going to be a better opportunity than that half-hour window to talk to them. And those are the people I want to talk to. You know, we all want to talk to them, right? Because I mean, they're the people that are working. Those are the people that can, you know, pay for policies the best. I mean, I don't have an exact metric. I've never measured it, but I feel like in that 7:30 to 8 a.m. window, I can usually get between, you know, 4 and 7 appointments booked right there.
4 to 7 appointments by 8 a.m.
Yes.
You guys heard that correctly, right? He books 4 to 7 appointments from 7:30 to 8 a.m. And what's crazy to me, Jake, is we still got plenty of people on this call here that don't even start by 8 a.m. And you're starting by 7:30. And like you said, you're getting ahead of the competition. You're attacking the day. Now, I'm assuming, let's be honest, you've had some pushback from certain people, but that hasn't stopped you from dialing at 7:30, has it?
Absolutely not. I mean, I'm glad you touched on that, man, because my I had a dial day last week. I was down with a lot of new agents. I think we had 15 new agents on the call, and I was preaching up and talking about how important it was to start dialing at 7:30 for all the reasons we just talked about. But dude, I got my butt kicked. It's not like you start dialing at 7:30, and of course you're dialing those people that are like, hey man, I don't wake up until 10 o'clock, call me back, boom, and you never hear from them again. Or they block your number because I just called them 6 times in a row before 8:15 in the morning. Right. So of course you get pushed back, but that's why you have a lot of leads.
Yep, exactly, man. So if you could kind of just touch a base real quick on your dial pattern. So when you are dialing a lead, how many times are you dialing a lead back to back, or whatever your scenario is, or whatever your procedure or whatever you want to call it is when you're attacking your leads?
I like to put my leads in groups of 30. So like, if I have, maybe 35, right? If I have 100 leads, I just have like 3 groups about the same amount of leads. And I just like to attack one group at a time. For me, it helps me feel more organized. But I mean, if you like to have 100 leads all in one stack, cool. I mean, do whatever you got to do. But I do it in smaller groups so I can make sure I'm going through those smaller groups thoroughly and milking them for everything they're worth, and just going as fast as I can, top to bottom, triple dialing from top to bottom, back up to the top, back to the bottom, back up to the top. I do that 3 times before I go off to my second group.
Love that. So you're basically separating the leads into different groups. So it's not like this big laundry list of leads that you got to call. You split it up in these small increments and attack them quickly. So of course, everybody is wondering, like, what does Jake Konen's lead flow look like, and how many leads do you typically have on your dial day? And you can be completely transparent here, man. We pride ourselves on transparency here.
100%, dude. I mean, I have a lot of direct mail mortgage locked out. I have a lot of direct mail final expense locked out. For the first 6 months in the business, I did nothing but, Facebook final expense stuff, Happy Agents, Lead Gurus, Leadzilla, all that stuff, Game Time leads. I love those too, and I still like those a lot, and I still like the internet life lead 1 month. But what I had to get in the habit of is, because the direct mail, is it awesome? Hell yeah, it's awesome, but it's unpredictable. So if you're waiting for those leads to come in and that's your sole, lead source, I've set myself up to fail on multiple dial days because I didn't get prepared with outside sources. So I always get prepared with outside sources first, and then whatever comes in the night before in the direct mail in the areas that I'm dialing, of course, I'm going to hit that as well. But I would say on average, I'm probably spending like at least $12,000 to $15,000 a month
On leads.
On leads, just for me personally. Yep.
Okay, so you're talking about $3,000 to $4,000 a week on leads.
Yep.
Okay.
Sure.
And so that's a similar thing that we heard from Steve last week, guys, is obviously for you to try to produce over $100,000 in a month, it's going to take a higher increase of lead flow, right? And of course, we all come into this business with different capital and different abilities to spend money on leads. But if you want to be a high level producer, that should be a goal of yours to work towards that. And you touched on a great point, Jake. You didn't just dive right into direct mail leads. You started with Facebook final expense. And in my opinion, I think Facebook final expense is the best lead type for a new agent to utilize, because one, final expense is simplistic. They're looking for a cremation or burial policy, or leave a little bit of extra money behind. And with those leads, Jake, it comes with a security question: favorite hobby, favorite color. And to me, that's so valuable as a new agent, because you want to, the biggest thing on booking a phone appointment, or booking an appointment on the phone, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is getting the individual to understand who they are, or identifying them as you're not a telemarketer, you have their information. And with the Facebook leads, you get that security question, you get that whatever that is. So it's like, Jake, hey, Jake, this is Gage just calling you back from the Facebook request you put online with your favorite hobby is playing football. Is that you? Like,
that's me.
to me, that is so valuable for a new agent, because where new agents struggle is keeping people on the phone and the art of keeping people on the phone. So if you're new guys, I highly suggest that you try out game time leads, you try out happy agent leads, and see what happens. And real raw ratios, I mean, I used to probably order about 30 of them, Jake, probably book anywhere between 10 to 15 appointments, and then sell about 3 to 5. Like, I feel like those are real raw ratios. You're not going to sell all 30. You're not going to book all 30. You're probably, it's like half, 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 right? Split in half. Now, as you get better, you can probably sell anywhere between 4 to 7 of those. But when you're new, you're obviously going to be fumbling on your words and everything. And looking back now, Jake, you know, you've been in this business for a little while now, and looking back to Jake when you first got started, would you say there's anything that, looking back now, that was key to your success or able to speed up your learning curve? Is there 1 or 2 things that you can think of, man?
Man, 100%. Number one was, you know, getting over myself. Cause I mean, everybody, like, I'm competitive. Everybody has a little bit of this in them for sure. I mean, you don't want to be like bad at something, let alone see other people see you be bad at it. You know, so it took me a while to, you know, unmute myself on Zoom. You know, that's what I was thinking about when you were starting to, you know, have this call. It took me a while, and it held me back a lot. I mean, I was having very frustrating, you know, 12, 13-hour dial days. I was still getting my appointments, but I wasn't booking my appointments as well as I should have been. You know, so I was having a lot of days, you know, just driving around, not seeing, you know, 10 people like I had on my schedule, you know, and it was taking so long. I didn't have time for anything else to do. I dreaded dial days. You know, but the very first time I unmuted myself, Easton, Zach, and a couple of new agents that were even newer than me, you know, just fresh, their first couple of days, they were smoking me on the phones, but I got, you know, just a couple subtleties to add, and it changed the game for me. So, I mean, getting over myself and not being afraid to let others see me fail, that was huge for me. And then understanding posture on the phone was massive. I've never heard it explained better than a new agent that just started literally a month ago. He brought one of his buddies with him, and he was having a tough dial day, and his name's Nick. And he just goes, "Hey, Nick, if you were a lifeguard and someone was drowning in front of you in the pool, would you ask their permission before you jumped in to save them?" Like, no, you're a lifeguard. That's your job. So quit asking people permission to do your job on the phone. Tell them what you're going to do. And I've never heard it explained that articulately. And I thought that was a sweet thing. But if you can understand your posture on the phone, we don't need to ask permission, guys. They already filled out the form. They're already raising their hand, asking for our help. We don't need to ask their permission to jump in and save them. Like, just tell them what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, when you're going to be there. That changed the game for me. Those two.
I love that, man. That is a great analogy to put into perspective. Is we are wanting to always be very, very nice, right? And our niceness can actually shoot us in the foot and honestly hold us back from being able to help people who are actually looking for our help. And I love that you said about the posture on the phone. It's your approach. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And
Exactly.
when you have that right tonality and you're monotone and you're not interested and you're doing your job, they require me to do this. Like that's what we're really looking for. And that's how you become really successful on the phones. But real quick, Jake, if you can just touch base now, obviously you have a chaotic schedule, and I know we touched a little bit on it. You know, you get started super early in the morning, you're prepared the day before, but like realistically, do you have it set up to where you have field days and then you have agent days or building days, or like, what does your schedule look like producing at a high level and growing at a high level?
I would say like 6 months ago, within the last 6 months, it's changed dramatically. You know, all I did was, in addition to get my leads prepared the night before, I just had like an old school, you know, schedule notebook, and I would just write down what I'm going to be doing, who I'm going to be reaching out to on phone calls in between every single appointment, who I need to reach out to for, you know, on text messages before the day starts, you know. So that helped me be, you know, just maximize everything. Because if we look at it for what it actually is, like a field agent, you spend a lot of time driving around. You know, sometimes you might have 15, 20, 30, 45 minutes in between appointments. You know, you might be able to get 3 or 4 recruiting calls in at that time. You might be able to help out 3 or 4 new agents. So it was just kind of understanding like who I need to help and being honest with myself where I actually was in the business. Like I gotta be cranking like 16, 18 hours a day. I don't have time to wait. No one's going to feel bad for me. No one's going to save me. I just need to get more efficient in the chaos. But now, yes, that's changed. So Thursdays on a dial day, I'm giving my time to all the new agents that are coming in, helping them dial, helping them get better on the phone. I'll dial on Fridays. If there's a couple of other stragglers that didn't fill up their whole schedule, on Thursday, which is a lot of us, especially just starting out, I'll dial with them on Fridays, run Saturday, Sunday. And then I'll just run during the weeks purely out of necessity if we need to, depending on where the business is.
I love that. So you basically have now devoted your Thursdays to the team.
Yes.
Man, I need to take notes because I am taking notes. Because I think it's so important that you give your time and value your time to your people, because, as trying to produce at a high level, you can get very much caught up in your own personal production because it is a lot of work and it is a lot of time. But when you can devote some time to your people and to pour into your people, that's what's going to scale your business and also help your newer agents book more appointments and also sell at a higher level because they have more opportunities or more at bats. So I love that, man. So you're basically dialing on Fridays and then you run the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how impactful would you say is working the weekends, and what type of results do you get on the weekends, Jake?
Man, this is one of the coolest things. So we tracked, my staff helped me track all my numbers for the whole year last year. And we had a meeting about a month ago, and she said between 60 and 65% of your overall income for the year came between 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. 60 to 65%. So, I mean, that's a lot of money that everyone's leaving off the table if you're not running those 2 days. I mean, if you think about it, all the people that are working, they're home on Saturdays and Sundays. If you're running during the week, you might have 3, maybe 4 appointments, if you're lucky, sitting down with couples or individuals that are still working full time. The rest of that's going to be people that are retired, that are on a fixed income, Social Security, disability, the whole 9. So if you really want to set yourself up to explode, Saturdays and Sundays is where it's at.
It's so important for people to understand that. And I know we're caught up in this Monday through Friday weekends is the time to enjoy ourselves, but we are self-employed. We are business owners. And on the weekends, you're either spending money or you're making money. And that's what you need to understand is most consumers are spending money on the weekends. So that's the best time for you to sell life insurance. And so I love that you said that. So potentially 60%. So let's say just $1 million. So you're saying $600,000 was made on Saturday and Sunday. That's freaking amazing, man. And I'm proud of you, dude. That's awesome. But that also leads me to my next segue that I wanted to ask about with your agency. And how is your agency adopting the telesales approach? Is majority of your team still going out in the field? How do you feel about the telesales approach yourself?
I mean, for me, it's tough because I have a pretty biased opinion. I have never done telesales. I did my very first virtual appointment dead on, this very first one last week ever. I've messed around with live transfers and stuff like that too. But, I just realized right away, number one, you have to be way better and way more articulate with your communication skills on the phone you can't just picture like a lion, he hasn't eaten a week, super hungry, a bunch of gazelles run out in front of him, a big herd. If he pops up and times his chase bad, he's not eating, but in the house, you can get away with stuff like that. On the phone, they just get to hit that little red button, dude, and you're done. You don't get another opportunity. So you need to have your timing be way better. You need to be way more subtle. Me personally, I have not mastered that art, so that's why I like to give myself a little grace and go out in the field. But I would just measure it. I always tell the new agents coming in, like, if you want to do virtual and you're already comfortable with virtual, do virtual, but if you're not getting your bills paid, give yourself 2 weeks to run how you want to run. And then let's just cut it in half. Let's do 2 days a week virtually, and then 2 or 3 days in the field until you get your money up and get that right.
That the hybrid approach, right? And
Yeah.
you're absolutely right, man. The thing about it, when you're in a home with an individual, one no, two no's, three no's,
Yes.
four
Yes.
no's, like you're deflecting the
Yeah.
no's in the home. I like to say you're like a freaking warrior and they're just overcoming objections, right?
Yes.
And you don't get that opportunity over the phone. Now, our team, like I was speaking with you, we have adapted it very, very well. And we've also seen a lot of success from it. But at the same time, for the newer agents, it is a very much of a struggle because they've never had that experience of sitting down in Mary's house and her telling you that she needs to think about it, and then not her hanging up. You guys can actually talk about it and think about it together, right? And so I just think it's so important for all you guys on this call to be able to at least experience a week or two, a month or so in the home, because there's no better way to learn how to sell life insurance. And so the $1 million producer does not run Zoom or telesales. So just think about that. You know what I mean? If you want to sell at a high level, you have to, success leaves clues, right? There's nobody in Family First Life selling $1 million doing Zoom. Now, Vivian Wells, she's an absolute beast, but she's polished. Her communication skills are at a point to where she can control conversations. She can lead them to what they want to say over the phone. But me and Jake, we don't have that yet, right? We're working on that, and I'm working on that as well. And then you get no-showed a lot higher when you're running Zoom appointments or phone appointments to call them back, because it's very easy not to answer the phone. You're in the middle of something, right? Now, we do get no-showed, and I imagine you've gotten no-showed like crazy, Jake. Like, realistically, when you're running your week, what would you say your ratio is from booked appointments to sits to sales?
So that I've never really took the time to, analyze that, man. But if I had to like take a guess, and again, this is a guess, I don't have an exact number for that. I would say if I have 30 appointments in a week, I'll probably sit down with like 16 to 18.
16 to 18. Okay.
Most
and
likely.
out of those, or your closing ratio, what would you say your closing ratio is?
So I've never calculated that either, dude. To me, it was never that important to, have a super good close ratio. I just wanted to have enough to be able to pour back into the business and always be able to say yes. So I think if anybody tells you like, I got 100% close ratio, I got a 75% close ratio, like, I don't know if I necessarily believe that, but like for me, I always concentrated on app count over the course of a month, not a week, because it's easy. You can have a bad day, you can have a bad week, but if you keep your activity consistent for a month, you're never going to have a bad month. I mean, for real, you can't, if your activity is always where it needs to be. So if it's a 4-week month, I always had 120 appointments. That's the only thing I focused on. I had my schedule laid out a month in advance. So if we have like a convention coming up or whatever, and I need to overload, the back half of the month to make sure I get my appointments up, I do that. Right. And then if I have my schedule with 120 appointments in a month, which I always made happen, all I focused on was getting 48 apps in, so that's 40%. And did I always make that happen? No. But the months that I did make it happen, it was awesome. And that's a 40% close ratio. If we're being honest, it's not that impressive. That's a failing grade in school. I would have just had to do 5th grade over again, bro.
Yep.
So you can make a lot of money, guys, with a 40% close ratio. Trust me on that. Your activity just has to be where it needs to be.
Absolutely. And I think Easton's a big preacher in that too, that his close ratio is not where you would think it is for the high level that he sells at. And it goes the same with yourself. I mean, we're not some crazy salespeople here, guys. We just have a lot of at-bats. I mean, 40%, bro, you'd be getting paid top dollar in the MLB if you're hitting 400 or averaging 400 as a baseball player. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
that's what we have to understand is like these people who are getting paid millions of dollars in the MLB, they're usually batting, dude, like 250, 300. So you're talking about 25 to 30% are they're actually hitting the ball. Or in our case, we'd be making sales. So you don't have to be some crazy good salesman. You just have to be crazy good at seeing people and speaking with people. And that will increase your confidence. That'll increase your money flow into your account, which will also increase your livelihood, because when you're making money, life's good, right? But when you're not making money, life's real tough, and we're contemplating everything. Now, obviously, your first year in the business, Jake, I imagine it wasn't all rainbows and unicorns, man. Like, what are one or two, I guess, obstacles or things, barriers that you had to break through to really take this thing to the next level, if you had to think back?
For sure, dude. So, I mean, I did come from the insurance industry. So I think I was like going back before even Family First Life, because I did still sell life insurance, but I was also doing property casualty stuff. So just to give you guys a perspective of my lack of social skills, especially in a sales arena, right when I got my life insurance license, I didn't even know what an IUL was, but I knew that on our commission charge, which was 43%, by the way, we're spoiled over here. I knew that I got 56 if I sold an IUL, and it was over $10,000 annual premium. I did not even conceptualize how much that was every single month. So I made a list of 25 people right when I started, literally no experience ever, that I knew were well off. And I went out, and the first life insurance appointment I ever had, I tried to pitch a guy on an $80,000 a year IUL, and I could not even explain the product.
That's funny.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, the willingness to like go fail was always there, but I mean, I was so unpolished, it wasn't even funny. I was so bad that I hired a coach. I hired a insurance specific sales coach to, help me get better, and so when I came into, this side of things, and it was all simplified issue, then it was all fully underwritten, my eyes lit up, but I mean, like I said before, coming over here, just swallowing my ego a little bit, being willing to, have people see me fail, and then turning myself on Zoom and be open to constructive criticism. Those are the two things that changed the game for me the most.
Yeah, it's absolutely true, man. I mean, it's overcoming the fear of not allowing other people to see you fail. And I think as soon as you can overcome that fear, on the other side of that fear can be success, and can be a boost of confidence as well. As weird as that sounds, is a failure can lead to success. And the more failure you go through, the more lessons you learn, because we don't fail, we learn here. And so I like to say, we don't take losses, we take lessons with every single appointment that we have in a home. Before we transition into more of the nuts and bolts of selling, you said that you had an insurance coach. Out of your time with him, what would you say was the most important or the biggest thing you took away from spending time with that individual?
Listening to people. I wanted to come in and control the conversation, but I didn't know where the conversation was even supposed to go. I was just going at it 100%, just let's go. I'm just going to go and see what happens, but just listening to people, and that's so valuable, and asking the right questions, but mainly just listening. Like when you show up to an appointment, whether it's virtual or in person, and if you can open it up the right way, like gauge, like, what do you want this policy to do for you? Like, I don't need to reiterate why I'm there. And you're about to tell me exactly what you want this thing to do for you, and you haven't seen price. You're about to tell me what you want purely out of like love for the people that you want to take care of. You know what I'm saying? And so they're giving you everything up front. You know what I'm saying? So that's the biggest thing, man, is just listening to people.
I couldn't agree with you more. And it's funny that you say that, because last dial day on Monday, I had a gentleman who told me that he had already gotten a policy. and that he had sat, or he hadn't gotten a policy. He had sat with the agent. He told the agent that he was going to call him back in 2 weeks. And so I told him, I was like, did you fill out multiple forms? He said, yes. So I educated him. And then we just started having a conversation. And 30 minutes later, Jake, I set an appointment with that gentleman, which is a long time on the phone, but I listened to him and we had a conversation. And at the end of it, he said, man, you are a professional. He's like, there's so many people that call me on the phone and they just don't listen to me. And you actually listened to me. We had a conversation, we laughed, and I respect that. And I would rather do business with somebody with your type of professionalism. And I told him I was only doing this for 3 years, and he was mind blown. And this dude told me he worked for 18 years in the SWAT in North Carolina. So, you know, this dude's a badass dude. You know what I mean? Like he's no wimp. But that was the power of, one, not over talking him and trying to push through, but just listening. Now, does that work every time on the phones? Usually not, to be straight up with you guys. But I was honest with him about filling out multiple forms, educated him a bit, listened to his scenario, and now we set up an appointment so we can do business together. And that's the power of listening. So I love that you shared that, because that is a key aspect to this business, is being a good listener and an active listener. And that's the power of the financial inventory sheet, is when someone tells you an important fact or an important aspect of why they're looking for the coverage or about their life, you need to write that down, because that is something that's valuable to them. And then if you reiterate that to them, Jake, they're going to understand that you listen to them. And now all of a sudden you're an actual human being. You know what I mean? So I think it's super important for us to kind of talk about what your in-home looks like when you get to the house, how you set that up, key phrases or things that you say to really set the table up for a successful appointment. So if you want to role play, or if you want to just go through it, just however you want to do it. But people on here would love to hear that.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, I'm a simple guy, so I had to keep it very simple. And I always knew that I was in control, but the perception of allowing somebody else to feel like they were in control still meant that I was in control, you know? So being able to make that mental switch was very big. But really, guys, they filled out a lead. It goes back to like the assumptiveness. Like, being assumptive does not say like, hey, you know what, I assume you want to do this, you want to do that. Being assumptive is just like, they filled out the form, so they're going to buy a policy. And so directing all of your verbiage and language towards that application, you know, so set your mind up for that. Like, if I walk into the house, we're getting an application, you know, not, I hope they get we get to send an application if I walk into the house. You know, those are way different. That's just like, you know, Kobe waking up wanting to be the best basketball player on the planet that ever existed, you know, and everybody else is like waking up trying to make an NBA roster. Two massively different mindsets. But what I kind of just touched on is, you know, like, you filled out a form. I don't need to reiterate and justify why I'm there. I don't need to justify that I'm a professional. Like, you filled out a form. What do you want your policy to do for you? So I get right down to business, you know, right away, you know, because if I treat them like business and I'm there for them and there for service, they're going to treat me like business as well. And I stay there and I don't pull anything out of my bag besides my license, because I want them to know I'm licensed. I don't have the client inventory sheet. I literally just have a conversation to kind of pull down their barrier a little bit and learn about them, learn what makes them tick. You know, who do they care about? Everybody is somebody, you know, and I try and quantify that. You know, if you can quantify that in conversation, like, Gage, if you're a single guy and you're in your 70s and your daughter is not there at the house, but that's who you want to protect and you want to get final expenses so she doesn't have to pay for it, that's where most people stop. Okay, your daughter can't pay for it. Cool. Now we're gonna look at this. We're gonna look at that. We're gonna look at this. If you take that a couple of steps further, like, what's your daughter's name? Does she have bills of her own? Where does she work? Does she have one job or two jobs? Okay, she's a single mom, 2 kids, working 3 jobs. Do you think she has like $10,000 to $15,000 laying around in her bank account to take care of final expenses for you unexpectedly, especially because she's going to be morally obligated to do so? No. That is taking it a step further. You know what I'm saying?
No, I was just saying this other, not to mean to interrupt you, but like most people will just ask surface level questions. But when you dig deeper with 2 or 3 additional questions, it's you're finding that pain point. Like instead of you scratching the surface, you're digging deep into their situation. And if you dig deep into their situation, you'll get a better understanding of how important this is for them, or why that they're looking for this, or what it's going to do for them. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just think you hit a valuable point that most of us just ask surface level questions instead of digging a little bit deeper. So if you want to keep going, keep doing your thing, bro.
So, I mean, surface level questions is surface level results, bro. So, I mean, it just depends on what you want out of this thing. Maximize your time, go deep, you know, because when you buy a lead, we all know that you're not guaranteed to get a sale. Okay. But on the other side of each lead is actual family, real people that we need to protect. So we need to have real conversations with them, you know, so that's why I don't like to bring anything out of my bag. I don't want it to look like, you know, I'm trying to get XYZ to use against them. I want to use it for them, not against them, you know, so that's why I'm going to have a conversation, figure out what's going on, you know, who they actually want to protect. And then one thing I can't remember for the life of me who I took this from, but, you know, like Gage, let's say your daughter's name is, you know, Jennifer, that you want to protect for your final expenses. And we go through that. Like we said, she's working 2 or 3 jobs, 2 kids, bills of her own. She's clearly behind on everything because she's working that much. She can't pay for it. We both agreed on that. Now I'm going to write Jennifer's protection plan on top of the client worksheet, big, you know, so you can see that we're building a plan for Jennifer, you know. And if you guys are ever dealing with like a tough customer, a great way to say like, hey, listen to me, without saying, hey, listen to me, and also letting them know that you're there for service, is like, you know, Gage, with respect, I'm going to be Jennifer's voice today because she's not in the room, and she's going to be the person that's, you know, going to be impacted by the positive aspect of planning ahead or the negative of not planning ahead. Are you okay with that? Are you comfortable with that? You know, immediately people know like, okay, this guy's here for me.
You personalize it.
Make it theirs because it's theirs. Yeah, absolutely.
I love that, man. And I think that it does start with just having that conversation. Like when you show up and you pull out all this stuff out on your bag, and you got your iPad, you got a clipboard and your license. It's just like, whoa, like this guy, you know what I mean? You're going into their house. They don't know what to expect. You sit down at the table with them and you have a casual conversation to really learn about them. So I think that is huge, guys, and we all can adapt that even on the phone. I think that's so crucial. Like having the assumption that every single person you're going to talk to on the phone is going to buy a policy, and then making sure that before you dive into the numbers and showing quotes, you get a good understanding on who they're looking to protect. What is their name? If you don't know the name of the individual that they're looking to protect, there's really no emotion. But there's like a psychological thing, Jake. Like if you heard, do you what's your mother's name?
Tammy.
Tammy. So if I'm going to say Tammy, and then I say Tammy, and I say Tammy, and then I say Tammy, what does that make you do? It makes you
think about my mom.
It makes you think about her. It makes you think about the daughter. It makes you think about the spouse, whatever the circumstance may be. I remember Jordan Lowry used to always tell me, say the beneficiary's name 7 times throughout the financial inventory sheet. Make it a point to say their name 7 times. Now, if you don't say their name 7 times, at least do your best to do 5 or 6. It can be more than 7 times as well, because it's about that individual, and then you get their wheels spinning. And I remember Easton, it's funny that you say that about having that conversation before you start anything. Easton would jump right into things, right? And he said that he used to set a timer on his phone before he would get into any of the presentation, that he just had that casual conversation. I think it was maybe 10 minutes or something, where it just took time to really get to know him. Because if we would time ourselves, Jake, a lot of us, it's maybe 2 minutes tops. A lot of times 1 minute. maybe 3 minutes. But even if you just made a conscious effort of spending 5 minutes actually learning about them, and it's not this like silly, how's your daughter? It's like, this is a real conversation and this is a professional conversation. So let's get to know your scenario here. And so I appreciate you sharing that, man, because I love the fact that you say the beneficiary's protection plan. I'm going to immediately start implementing that into my presentation and my appointments, because then it starts getting the wheels spinning. So that's money, bro. I really appreciate that. And so now let's say you've set the table, right? And
yep.
How are you presenting your numbers, or how are you transitioning from your financial inventory sheet into actually showing numbers? Do you have any word tracks, any verbiages, or how do you make that transition smooth and showing your numbers?
So before I get into the application, because we're getting into the application no matter what, you got to sell a concept. You got to sell a concept. I mean, if you guys are just selling products based off price, you're always going to lose off price. And if you're selling products not based on like the specific needs that they want to see, you're always still going to lose off price. There's no value there. So delivering a concept, because like that, the price is really irrelevant. The concept is all about what the face value is going to do and how the money is going to be spent, right? So if we're using Gage, and we're using Jennifer's protection plan, Gage, so are you going to be buried or cremated? Okay, you're going to be buried, so that's 15 grand. You also got a lot of stuff in your house, right? She's going to have to get all that out. What do you think? Like maybe 5,000 for her to hire movers, because she's got 3 jobs. She doesn't have time for that. Get everything out of here. Okay, cool. So we're looking at 20. And then, she has 2 boys, is there anything there? I mean, do you want to leave a gift behind for Jennifer? Maybe just like a lasting impression type of thing. Have you thought about that? Okay, cool. So we can just look at 10,000. And I know immediately what each piece is for, 15 for the burial, 5 for everything moving out, and then 10 for a lasting impression. So we're looking at $30,000 automatically when we jump in there. Okay. And then obviously, you can use your underwriting guides and all that stuff to know what direction you want to go. And then if you guys are using Americo and you can't get a hold of your upline, you can literally go through and have them sign the health authorization, and it'll tell you if they have a chance of getting approved or not with Americo. So you can literally pivot right in. But what's the one thing that everybody wants to see when you come over there? The one thing above all else?
Numbers.
Price. Yep. They want to see the price, right? So why would you give somebody a price if you don't know that they can get approved for that plan, at least with, a very high degree of certainty? So go through the pre-approval process with Americo, or go through the health questions at the beginning with Aetna before you see if it's going to be preferred, standard, modified, whatever, and then show them the numbers, right? But when you show them the numbers, it's very important, value over price, right? So what the money's going to do for them. So Gage, to have the 15,000 for burial, $5,000 to get everything moved out of the house, and then $10,000 for a lasting impression, that is going to be $230 a month. And I'm not moving off of that, because psychologically, if we go into Costco, right, what's the very first things that we all see right when you walk into Costco? All the expensive stuff. And subliminally, psychologically, that makes everything in the store, even though it's very expensive to shop at Costco, everything else in the store is cheaper because you saw that $2,600 TV right when you walked in.
Yep.
I'm going to show them the full 30, because we came to that conclusion together purely out of his love for Jennifer, with him not seeing numbers. And I'm going to stay there until he gives me a reason to move. And then I just top down sell from there. But when you have to decrease the premium, if you just drop the face value and you say, okay, cool, we'll just go down to 15, that's only going to be 120 bucks, right? There's no value with that statement. It's not powerful at all, right? Versus, okay, cool, if we just drop this down to 20,000 Gage, that's still going to pay for your final expenses, and it's still going to get everything moved out of this house. Okay, maybe if we're looking at dropping it to 25, maybe 5,000 for a lasting impression. So I already just took away 5,000 from you that you wanted to give to Jennifer, that now you can't because the price is not there. So I'm taking something as well, is giving something. That's how you drop the price, is dropping that. And that's why you need to figure out what it's for specifically, so that when you drop the price, you pull the money away from what he wanted it for originally until you can settle.
It's not what you say, is how you say it. And that's, I mean, that was gold. That was fire. That was really, really intentional behind the actual numbers. And I think that we do get caught up in crossing our fingers and hoping that they say yes, versus being assumptive and saying that they can afford this. And if they tell us they can't, then we can always drop that back down. But obviously, Jake, everyone gets this, and you get it all the time as well. I just want to think about it, Jake. So you showed me the 232,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can swing that, but I just want to think about it, Jake.
Got it. So Gage, since this is Jennifer's protection plan, would you agree that this is not really about you? It's about Jennifer, right?
Correct.
So is she going to have the opportunity to think about it if something were to happen unexpectedly? You already told me and divulged into what her, reality looks like on a day-to-day.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for her, man.
Okay. So why would we not make the decision to at least get you approved for some coverage today to take that unexpected burden off of Jennifer tomorrow?
It's just expensive, man. I just don't know if I can afford it.
Got it. So you're bringing in, we already went through this. I mean, if we do need to go back to Gage, I mean, I'm a budget guy as well, glorified, of course, but you're bringing in $2,300 a month. So we're not even looking at something that's outside your budget. We're actually looking at something that's literally 10% of your monthly income. That's it. Jennifer's set up. You don't need to get anything else on top of this ever again. This is the last policy you need to get, and your worries are gone. So if you could, Gage, all I need, I have some emails to respond to. I don't need a voided check. I just need the numbers at the bottom. If you can just go ahead and go grab that, I'll just answer some emails here. Go ahead.
And you direct them. You direct them to where you want to go. And I think that was so good that obviously it worked out very well with using their income is not always going to be 10%. But if you guys do the math on that, of their income, and you break it down to the percentage of the income that is going to be this policy, it just makes so much more logical sense. Like, Jake, this is about 8% of your monthly income. So it's obvious that it's within your budget, but is there some reason why you're still hesitant to see if we actually get you qualified for this, or whatever you spend it off of, right? Like, Jake did a much better job than myself, and he sells at a whole lot better level than I do. So listen to him. But it's all about how you handle the objection, not freak out. Because some of us get flustered, right? Because they're like, oh, I need to think about it, right? But when you pull out enough emotion, when you have enough facts, when you look at their budget, you have everything out there. The think about it is just, one, they are scared to tell you no, or two, they don't like to make a decision on the first day. And you'll hear that all the time. So let's say that you told me exactly about Jennifer's protection plan, what that looks like. I just don't like to make decisions on the first day, Jake. I like to sleep on it.
Got you. So before I respond to that, I just look at each objection like a balloon. You know how you can breathe life into an objection and make it something real. As far as right now, I would say that's just kind of a complaint and not even an objection. So I'm not really going to spend a lot of time addressing it, over explaining it. I'm just going to roll with it and move past it. You know what I'm saying? So you don't like to make decisions on the spot. Gage, awesome. I don't either. We've already spent a lot of time. This is 8% of your monthly income. That's definitely worth having some sanctity and some peace of mind for Jennifer, only being 8% of your monthly income. You and I both know you're 73 years old. If we wait on this any longer, you're also risking health. And I'm not going to put myself in a position to get a phone call from Jennifer saying, hey, Jake, my dad had your phone number. I found it. He just passed away. And it said that you're his life insurance guy on here. I'm not going to tell her that you thought about this decision. I'm either going to tell her that you gave me a yes, she's worth that 8%, or no, she's not. So if you could please go and get your routing and account information, I'll just be right here. As I said, I have some emails to tend to.
Money. It's just so good. It's first of all, you think about what you're going to say. Like you don't have to be rushed to get something back out. So take your time, breathe a little bit, and articulate how you're going to address whatever they just said. And that was just so good that you don't spend a lot of time on I don't make a decision on the first day. You agreed, you acknowledge, and you ask the question. It's those three things, guys, with every objection: phone, in-home, presentation. It's acknowledge, or it's agree, acknowledge, ask a question. And it's always in that order. And as long as you can do that, you can pretty much overcome anything. But that is the power of being able to control the conversation. And how essential or how important do you think it is to be able to understand how to control a conversation? Is there anything that you think that helped you, Jake, gain more control in controlling a conversation?
Just asking more information up front. You know, I mean, it starts right when you walk into the house. I'm already placing a policy on you. You know, of course, it's theoretical. Gauge, what do you want your policy to do for you? You know, I'm trial closing you from the second I walk in there. And then open it up, asking about what you want it to do, who's it protecting, what their reality looks like, why we need to protect them, all that stuff. You know, so slowing down at the beginning and not being in a rush to get into the application, that helped me out a lot. And then actually listening.
It makes total sense. I know one thing that Rob Richmond always talked about to gentlemen is like 1 in 4 men are gonna get cancer. So between me and you, let's flip a coin.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not us. Let's flip a coin again. Maybe it's not us, but let's flip a coin the third time. Now it's me or you. And like putting things like that into perspective, I think is super important too, is to give them the reality of the world that we live in with cancer. When you're talking about mortgage protection, how valuable would this be if you got diagnosed with prostate cancer? How valuable would this be if you were to come down with breast cancer, Mary? Like all these different things that you can use in the home to paint the picture of what this product's going to do for them, I think is super, super beneficial as well. But man, this has been absolute fire. It will be on our YouTube channel, guys, by Sunday. But Jake, I guess if you could just really touch on the importance of annual convention as we're 1 week away and what it did for you the first time that you went to convention.
Last year was my first convention. Ray Lewis was like one of my favorite dudes growing up, so that was pretty cool. But I mean, just to be, because this is kind of like a soul journey. You know, you're not always going to be surrounded by a lot of people doing the same thing, you know, especially if you're out in the field. You know, dial day, you're together. Then you know, it feels like you're quote unquote out on your own for 2 days. Just to be around the atmosphere and the energy and the positivity and seeing the direction that, you know, 20,000 people are going and it's all the same direction. It's so powerful and it cannot be duplicated. But then also the belief, that was one thing for me that I was kind of probably unconsciously looking for. I didn't know I was looking for it. That drove the belief home that I made the right decision. That drove the belief home for my wife that we were going in the right vehicle, you know, to take us to the promised land. And I mean, plus then if you want to look at it financially, it probably added like $500,000 to $600,000 to my bank account this last year. You're going to pick up little tips and tricks. I mean, you're probably going to fill up an entire notebook or two with notes, go back, reread them, reorganize them afterwards. It's just it's unexplainable. It's an invaluable. You can't put a price on it. It's priceless.
Yep, absolutely, man. The conviction that I got after my first convention, I realized I was doing exactly what I was intended to do, and that is to help and serve as many people across the United States as I can, whether that be families, whether that be agents. And I understood that I was running with the right crowd. I was in a room full of hungry, humble entrepreneurs. And so I'm super excited for you guys. One question that one of our agents did ask is, are you booking your appointments by yourself are you using a setter to book your appointments?
I did use a dialer one day last year, just one day. I always wanted to dial with my team. Again, I wanted them to see me fail and normalize myself to realize like, oh, I'm getting the same exact objections Jake is. He's hitting them the same exact way he's telling me to do it. You know, so that was very powerful for us. And I mean, I had a lot of no-shows that one day. I guess I'd never gave it an honest, you know, try.
And I think that goes back off of Steve's approach. That goes off of Rob Richmond's approach. They've never had a dialer, guys. Like there's no really skipping that work and that ability to set appointments. Because if you want to grow an agency, but you don't know how to book appointments, how are you going to ever be able to teach somebody how to book appointments? I think the dialer is great to increase your opportunities in a week, but I don't think it's something that can replace what you do on a weekly basis and getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So Jake, I know we met, what was that, like a week or a week and a half ago? And you came to me about this little competition, and I actually have not announced it to the team. But what did you say to me and come up and ask me when we last seen each other, brother?
So I should tell you why first.
Okay.
Because I know I can learn a lot from you. I know I can put some feathers in my cap that I'm missing right now personally as an agency owner. So I want to be in communication with you more. But here's the bet, guys. It's just an agency race to $3 million. The loser has to donate $10,000 to a charity. I mean, for me, it would probably be the Dream Center. It would. But
absolutely. So you heard that right, guys. So Enhance Foundation is competing with Big Sky for the first agency to get to $3 million a month. Right now, Big Sky is a little over 700,000. Right now, Enhance is a little over 700,000. And we all love a little bit of some friendly competition. Jake's a big dude, but I'm not going to back down because I believe in all of you guys and I believe in this opportunity. And I think that we can scale this thing or triple by the end of the year. So I'm super excited, you know, either way, win or lose. I definitely do want to connect with you, Jake, but $10,000 is on the line and we are just going to be donating it to a good cause. And that's the cool thing about Family First Life is having some friendly competitions. I think it's super important that you have a couple competitors, you have a couple mentors in this business, so then you can raise your level of results. You can raise your level of activity. So I'm super excited for that, Jake. I'm really looking forward to seeing you down in Miami. You guys will hear from Jake. He is one of the key speakers at the convention. And if you guys enjoyed what Jake had to say today, go up and introduce yourself. He's a great dude. He is pretty intimidating. He's a big dude. He plays linebacker in college, but he is a great guy and he's more than willing to help you out. And we do appreciate you taking the time out of your dial day to pour back into us. If you guys got value out of this call, please drop a JK in the chat right now. Just thanking our man, Jake Konen, for sharing with us, giving us great tips. And if there's any last thing that you would like to say before we get back to our dial day here, Jake, the floor is yours, brother.
Let's just go crush it, man. Let's go hit that 3 million. Let's build up that momentum this weekend, rolling into convention. I want to meet all y'all at convention. Let's tear it up and let's change some lives.
Awesome. Appreciate you, brother. All right, guys.